Full time at the Amex, and it has finished Brighton 0, Liverpool 2, with goals from Luis Diaz and Mohamed Salah, getting his 20th probably goal of the season. Unbelievable numbers for him. You're watching the Debrief live on the Blood Red YouTube channel with myself, Patrick Smith, and Matt Addison. Matt, that was a very important win for the Reds, and they made it look relatively comfortable, didn't they?
They did in the end, yeah. It wasn't the best start to the game, but I think after the Luis Diaz goal, Liverpool just kind of took control of it, really. And Brighton had one or two moments, but you never really felt too uncomfortable, and you never really felt like they were going to get back into it. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the first time Liverpool have been 2-0 up against Brighton this season, but thankfully this time it was a different outcome for them. It was a big win. I think it's the start of a big week, really. Obviously, Arsenal to come midweek, then an FA Cup quarter-final next weekend. It's three must-win games for Liverpool this week, and they've done the first job. Hopefully they can move on to the other two and find that same result.
Yeah, you mentioned there how it was, we didn't let the 2-0 lead go this time. Do you think Liverpool were very impressive, or do you think Brighton weren't as good as they were at the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, they're not in the best form, are they? I think it's 5 games on the spin now that they've lost. I think they're always one of those teams that can look quite good in spells, but maybe don't have the clinical edge. And I think we've seen that today again in the sort of 10 or 15 minutes that they were on top to start with. They had sort of 2/3 of the ball. They had a couple of little chances where you kind of felt more like they were half chances, really, that they got into the areas but didn't quite manage to do anything with it. I think it was more that being the case than anything else, really. I think Liverpool kept them at arm's length, and I think it's important to say as well that if Liverpool needed to go and get another goal, or they needed to go up another level, I think they probably could have done. I think it was a bit of a kind of measured performance, I suppose you could say. They've kind of just about done what they needed to do, kept the ball at certain times, didn't really press and go for 3, 4 and 5 goals because they just didn't need to do that. So yeah, it's one of those results I think that you need in a title race sometimes. A 2-0 straightforward, keep a clean sheet, get a couple of goals, make it safe. I think it's a performance that you need. And if Liverpool are going to go all the way and win the league this season, it won't be the last time that we see that, I don't think.
Well, I'm going to move on to the first goal because I think that's probably going to be the major talking point from today's game. An unbelievable ball through from Joel Matip, who was a rock at the back again today. Solid as ever. Unbelievable pass from him. Luis Diaz, what a finish. Fantastic header. Beats the keeper, gets the ball, puts it past him brilliantly. But I have no idea, Matt, how that wasn't at least a yellow card, how Mike Dean didn't look at the monitor. Now, you've got some refereeing experience, you've got the knowledge. Is there any justification for their decision?
No, I mean, let's start with the goal first. I think it was a brilliant pass, like you say, and a brilliant, brave header from Luis Diaz, who was exceptional all game long. But I think Jamie Carragher tweeted it during the game. I think that the only thing that kind of gone through the officials' minds in terms of it being a red card is that it's a goal and therefore Liverpool can't have too many complaints because they've scored. But I mean, it just doesn't work like that. It's 100% a red card. I think I can kind of understand why Mike Dean hasn't maybe seen it to begin with, because from the angle that he's at, you kind of just think it's Luis Diaz has got to the ball first. He's been fouled, but obviously you're not going to give a penalty because the ball's in the back of the net. So even though it was a goal, it should have been a red card. And yeah, as soon as it goes to VAR, you can kind of see it's clearly dangerous play. It's clearly a high boot. We've seen Sadio Mane get sent off for similar things in the past. I think it was a really dangerous tackle. It should have been a red card. It was one that could have done a lot more damage than what it did to Luis Diaz. Thankfully, he got up and continued to play really well in the game. But yeah, it was a baffling decision, to be honest. I think, we talk about should Stuart Atwell have sent Mike Dean over to have a look at it. Well, I don't think it should have even taken that.
Didn't even need that, no.
He should have known himself, really, that was a red card. And yeah, I think anyone watching it on TV in England will have noted that even Peter Walton disagreed with the decision, which I think pretty much...
That's when you know something's gone wrong. I mean, you mentioned Mane there. His challenge on Addison a couple of years ago is similar. Do you think if it was the other way around and Sanchez had clattered into Diaz, he would have been sent off? If Diaz had clattered into Sanchez?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? I don't know exactly what the thought process was. I doubt we'll get an explanation, because you only tend to get explanations when it costs the team. And thankfully, it didn't cost Liverpool today. We don't have to go down that route, and probably it'll get forgotten about fairly quickly because Liverpool went and won the match anyway. But yeah, it was just a strange decision. I think you just can't really think about how they've come to the conclusion that should be the right thing. I mean, it's like I said, in real time, you can kind of understand it, and you can kind of see that Mike Dean is more preoccupied with making sure he doesn't blow the whistle before the ball goes in the net to check that Diaz is okay, because that would have been, potentially a goal being ruled out. So he's got that bit right, but then he just needs a little bit of help. And yeah, Stuart Atwell. I thought actually Stuart Atwell had a really, really good game in the Carabao Cup final, but he's back to his usual type today.
Yeah, he definitely was, wasn't he? But I'm going to go back to Joel Matip, who played the ball through. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk starting alongside him today, unexpectedly to an extent, as he missed training on Thursday, and everyone was unsure whether he would take a part. But Matt, a brilliant defensive display again, and another clean sheet. We're racking up a lot this season, aren't we?
Yeah, there should be a lot more talk about this, I think, really, than what there is. I think obviously the five attackers that Liverpool have, and obviously Minamino and Origi weren't involved today, get a lot of the credit and the praise, and understandably so, because they're the ones putting the ball in the back of the net, and Liverpool have at times been free scoring. But yeah, I think the defence, the goalkeeper, they all deserve a lot more credit than what they get. I mean, particularly the last three matches, I think have kind of shown that. Obviously, they conceded against Inter Milan, but it wasn't enough to knock Liverpool out. They kept them enough at bay and did what they needed to do. Before that, Liverpool didn't look like particularly going on and scoring loads of goals against West Ham, but the clean sheet was the thing that kind of won it for them. So, yeah, obviously Virgil van Dijk is kind of chief in terms of the importance, but the others as well. I thought Trent was good again today. Andy Robertson did a few good bits. I think Brighton have got a few really good, tricky players. I really like Solly March. Doesn't necessarily, come up with the numbers, but I do think he's an exciting player to watch. Really good on the ball, and they've got a good number of players like that. Alexis McAllister, I think, is a decent player as well. So, yeah, it's not the easiest team to play against. I think Brighton at certain times in the past have got the better of Liverpool's high line. I think we saw that certainly at Anfield. They didn't quite get it right, and Brighton were clever enough and intelligent enough to get the ball into the right areas to punish them. But like I said before, that there wasn't really too much of a suggestion that would be the case today. And yeah, I think obviously Van Dijk was good. Matip, very, very dominant in the air. But Alisson as well, I thought was good. Whenever the ball did come over the top, he was always there to kind of sweep up. So yeah, it was a really good team collective defensive performance, and obviously that goes all the way through the pitch as well. It's not just the defenders. Obviously touched on Luis Diaz before, but I think defensively he was excellent today as well. I think there was a good few times where he kind of tracked back and got an important tackle or touch in. There was once or twice where Andy Robertson got caught out a little bit higher up the pitch and Luis Diaz sprinted back to help him out. So yeah, collectively, I think Liverpool defensively were excellent today, and you have to be against Brighton. They do have some good players, but yeah, really strong performance all round.
Yeah, I think you're spot on about a lack of recognition for the defence. It's all about the attack and how amazing our attack is, but the clean sheets really do speak for themselves this season. But as for the attack, we're going to move on to the man of the moment, and the man who's been making all the headlines in the past 24 hours with his mate and agent, Rami Abbas. It's Mo Salah, of course, his 20th Premier League goal of the season in March already. Unbelievable numbers. Also, Liverpool's 2000th Premier League goal, which is quite a nice stat. But Matt, how important is that goal going to be? Because obviously the headlines haven't been massively in his favour, shall we say, over the past 24 hours. But this goal could be a very big one for him in that sense.
Yeah, 2,000 goals, and Salah and Mane have got 10% of those between them, which is just, underlines the importance of the pair of them, doesn't it? And again, puts into focus really the importance of the contracts for both of them. Obviously, Salah is the big story at this moment in time. You've still got to hope that something can be agreed, but I do think there was a little bit of a change in mood, shall we say, in terms of obviously his agent appearing essentially to laugh in the face of what Jurgen Klopp had said in his press conference. So yeah, I think for Mohamed Salah, the job is pretty simple. He has to just continue doing what he's doing on the pitch. It's been a difficult couple of games in terms of finding the back of the net for him. He had that shot that was deflected onto the bar today, and again, it looked like it maybe wasn't quite going to happen for him, but then obviously scores the penalty. Hopefully that can kind of click him back into goal-scoring form again. But yeah, off the pitch, you just don't need that kind of distraction, especially when they're going for all of these trophies. They can't afford to slip up too many times, or maybe no times between now and the end of the season, essentially, if they're going to win all four.
It might have to be.
it might have to be perfection, and to be perfection, you just don't want any distractions, really. So, look, it will be interesting. It's going to rumble on. There's going to be further things that get discussed. There's all sorts of reports and rumours flying around, but for Liverpool, for the players, for Salah, it's just a case of continuing what they're doing. Obviously, at this moment, we don't know exactly the situation with the little injury that he got as well. Hopefully, that was just a precaution. Didn't seem like too bad an injury. It looked like he might
in decent spirits when he went off.
Yeah, it looked like he might have been coming off the pitch anyway at that point. So, yeah, in terms of the contract, we didn't need another reminder. In terms of the injury, hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, we haven't seen anything different from Mohamed Salah up to this point. He's obviously been in probably the best form of his life really this season, whilst these negotiations have gone on. So even though there was that little bit of a twist with his agent and all of the kind of comments around it, I wouldn't expect that to change anytime soon. But obviously, we hope that the deal is signed and progress is made. But at this moment, it does seem a little bit of a way off that being the case.
Yeah, I think we all know the club and Salah probably won't be too bothered. I think the agent's probably just trying to make a name for himself. But you mentioned there, it's important to remember that both Mane's and Firmino's contracts are also up in 2023. Naturally, they're not getting as much coverage as Salah about that. But we're going to move on, Matt, because, of course, the next game up for Liverpool is Arsenal, which is the game in hand on Wednesday at the Emirates. That's going to be a real toughie, isn't it, in the title race?
Yeah, it's a difficult place to go, isn't it? Liverpool have always found that. Arsenal haven't always been the best over the last few years, but they've always found it a tricky place to go. But I think this is the best Arsenal team for a good while now. They've got some decent players. They're in decent form. It's got that kind of feel of a real tricky place to go these days. So I think it'll be a hard one for them. Arsenal maybe not used to playing 3 games in a week. They certainly don't have the same squad depth that Liverpool do. So I think that's a big advantage. It's a reason certainly that Liverpool should be confident going into that one. But yeah, they can't afford to not win that one. I think, it'd be interesting, obviously, what happens on Monday night. Manchester City playing Crystal Palace away from home. I think that could be, a difficult game for them. And I think it is important to remember that all of these games are difficult. It's not just Arsenal. There's more games to come, which will be tricky for Liverpool. The same for Manchester City. But I think, it's going to be a big week for Liverpool in terms of, obviously, they've got to get through in the FA Cup. They've got to, regardless of what Manchester City do on Monday, they have to go and beat Arsenal if they want to go and win this league. But yeah, I think you'd be pretty confident going into those games, but it's certainly not going to be an easy one for anyone. But listen, if Liverpool play like they did today, hopefully start a bit quicker than what they did today, but obviously defensively and offensively as well. If Luis Diaz and Mohamed Salah are on the score sheet again, you'd fancy Liverpool to get the 3 points. Yeah,
absolutely. So we'll have our fingers crossed for that one. But Matt, that's all we've got time for on the Debrief today. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you to all of you for watching along as well. Be sure to stick with us here on the Blood Red channel, because we'll be bringing you Jurgen Klopp and Graham Potter's press conferences, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. But until Wednesday night, when Liverpool play Arsenal at the Emirates, that's all we've got time for on the Debrief today. Until then, it's goodbye for now.